Hi all, this is Maylene Velasquez. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and a registered play therapist. And I wanted to come today and do a little video on storytelling. After I created that first video on telehealth with children, I had a couple of people ask me about how to expand the squiggle story into actually creating a story that made sense for the clients that you're working with. So we're first going to discuss simple strategies to creating a story, and then we're going to talk about 3 different ways that you can implement storytelling in your work with clients. Every story that you create for the clients that you're working with needs to have a beginning, a middle, and the end. Usually I like to think of storytelling as it having a little bit of a problem that comes up and then a way to resolve the problem. The middle stage of any story is the way that you provide your client with a strategy or with the message of hope or the coping skill that they need in order to be able to overcome whatever it is that they're experiencing. I've taken tons of training with Dr. Courtney. She's definitely somebody that I highly recommend if you're looking to expand your work in play therapy, and I'll put her information down below. But one of the things that I learned from her in terms of storytelling is that every story needs to have a celebration at the end. You can begin your story with something as simple as once upon a time in a land far away. Hey, that's how a lot of stories begin, and I like to use that as well. It's simple, it's already there, and for me there's not much of a need to reinvent the wheel if there's something that works. So after you have established that kind of separation and distance, that this is happening in a land far away, then you want to introduce a character into your story, and this character might be experiencing a challenge. As a challenge comes up, you want to learn a little bit more about what this person is experiencing, or what this animal or what this object is experiencing. And then it helps to have a way that they're going to resolve it and coming to the end with that celebration. So one way that you can introduce storytelling in your work with clients is that you can tell your client, I'm going to tell you a story. But for me to tell you a story, I think it would be really cool if you show me 3 toys that you have. And this is if you're doing telehealth. Once you're in the playroom, then you're going to have all your things available and the client can pick 3 items. So if you're doing it online, then you're going to have them pick. And so I have my 3 toys ready, and I'm going to share a story with you, a simple story with the 3 items that I picked. And so I have a dragon, another dragon, and a starfish. And I'm going to use the example of a client that may be experiencing some anger issues or some trouble with regulation, and that's feeling lonely. So I'm going to start with this little guy. And I'm going to say that once upon a time in a land far away, there lived this little dragon. And now this little dragon used to really enjoy playing in the hills, splashing on the water. They enjoyed painting stones. They really liked eating ice cream. Now one day, this little dragon went to have their very favorite ice cream. And when they got to the fridge, it was gone. And they started to feel angry, but they decided to eat something else. Now the next day, the little dragon was about to watch their favorite movie. And once they got to the computer, the internet was not working. And they started to get a lot more angry. Now the next day, they got up and went to the bathroom, and they noticed that there was no soap. All the soap was gone. And the little dragon became so mad that they ended up firing and breaking everything that was in the bathroom. Little dragon got so mad and they got so scared. But when their parents came, the dragons told the little one that the little one was always going to be bad and that was never going to be loved, and that they needed to keep their feelings inside and away and never ever let anyone know what they're feeling. So this little dragon decided to go and hide in a cave. And now this cave was lonely and scary, and there was not much to do or anyone else that was there to play with them. After a while, the little dragon started to feel like no one will ever accept them and that no one will ever like them. Now one day, the dragon was sitting in its cave and it started to hear some singing, and the dragon saw it singing. That is so weird. I've never heard this kind of singing before. So the little dragon explored outside of the cave and they made it into this river. Now this river was very special because this river had starfish. And so the little dragon started to notice all the different starfishes, and it came to the one that he saw singing. And now the singing was so nice. And the dragon started to get a little closer. And the starfish noticed him and said, "Hi." But the dragon got so scared that he went and hid and got away from the starfish. And the starfish continued singing, but every so often would say, "I see you there. You can come talk to me." And after a while, the dragon started to feel a little bit more courageous. And with each little step, he got closer. So he heard the singing. They started to sing together. And after a while, the little dragon started to feel more comfortable to share about how mad he got and how there was no ice cream and all the soap was gone and how he was so mad and how he believed that nobody was ever gonna like him and that he had to hide his feelings from everyone. And so the starfish said, "Oh, little dragon, everybody gets mad sometimes. But you know, we're not really what we do at one point in time. We're allowed to change. And just because somebody thinks that we're bad doesn't mean that we're bad." And so the little dragon listened and started to feel a little bit more at peace with himself. But he said, "I just haven't seen or played with anyone in such a long time. I'm so scared that if I see somebody that I'm going to get mad and that I'm going to destroy everything again." And so the starfish said, "Well, when I'm mad or when I'm frustrated, it really helps me to sing. Let's try it together." And so they sang a song that helped them to calm and helped them to feel more at peace. And the little dragon started to feel that maybe, just maybe, if he dared again, that he can meet someone else. So after that day, the little dragon went back home, but the next day, they started to feel a little bit more braver and courageous. And as they were exploring outside of their cave and they went up the hill, all of a sudden they saw that far off there was another dragon that was singing. And so the little dragon felt more courageous and more brave and got closer and said, "Hi, can we sing together?" And the other dragon said, "Yes, I'm so happy to see you. Maybe we can be friends." And he said, "Okay, I just haven't had a friend in a long time." And so they ended up singing together and they celebrated, and it turned out, and now this is really cool, that they made a band, and this band sold so many records. It was insane. And they lived happily ever after. And so this is my silly story. I encourage you to think about what would feel silly, fun, playful to you that also applies to whatever your client is experiencing. But as you think about my story, right, you think about one, that you have to be able to sit with that kind of discomfort that comes when we're doing something different. Also thinking in the moment. Right? So sometimes we have the capacity to create a story ahead of time for our clients. But for me, it works best to do it in the session. I don't consider myself a storyteller. So creating a story when I'm with a client flows a lot more naturally. As you're telling the story, you can also prompt your client to give you feedback as to what would the other character say, or what would the main character say and how they would respond. So that's one strategy for how to introduce storytelling in sessions. So to have your client show you 3 toys that they like and that they enjoy. The next way that you can create a story is that you can have your client together create a story. So let's say that we were using those same 3 toys. Maybe you can share one line of the story while your client responds and shares another line. So this might be what this little dragon might share, or what this one might share. So maybe you are this one and your client is this one. Or you can just simply take turns. I say one line of the story, the client says another line, and we create it together. I usually like that, especially with older kiddos. It's a really fun way to create something that they can take with them, especially at the end of treatment. At the end of treatment, it's going to serve as a goodbye gift from therapy. Now, the last way that you can think about including storytelling with your clients is using the squiggle story. So I had some people that after we discussed the squiggle story weren't quite sure where to go with storytelling. Right? So after you have the client create the squiggles, and if you're not sure what the squiggle story is, I have the video linked at the bottom, so you can just click on the Telehealth with Children video. And after you have your clients create the squiggle, then you can go ahead and have them arrange it, and then you can tell a story. And so think about that beginning, that middle, and that end. Right? The story that you tell your client based on your squiggles, it's going to represent whatever it is that the client that you're working with, what is the presenting issue, and how can you create a story to represent what they're experiencing and to give them some tools or a hopeful message. Your client is going to create a story in whichever way that they do, and that's going to give you some information about what they're feeling and experiencing. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope that this was useful and helpful. And if there's anything else that you would like to see, please feel free to let me know. Thank you so much. Bye.